you know, what I should really talk about or focus on. So that's why the shorter way. I'm gonna tell you what I and other people have been doing over the last how many 17 years in this with this particular community. They are the Abui people in Eastern Indonesia, and kind of the bottom line, or what I want to show you, is that it's really nice if more people are involved, because you can feel less responsible for what you are doing in the field. You can kind of have multiple agents pulling their own agendas or pushing their own agendas, and you can kind of watch it and marvel to some extent. So this is what happened to me. So I'm following in a field site 2 very interesting scholars who were there just before Second World War, and gradually I discovered how much materials they have left, and I'm kind of in the process of also digesting it. I myself have done a lot of language documentation, lexicon, and so on, and I have been lucky that other people have kind of joined and started working on other things. So there is a team who work, for example, on ethnobotany. And there is now a student who's defending his thesis in September about language acquisition. And I have been quite lucky with computational linguists who were in the same department as I in Singapore before, and who were helping me, or were kind of teaching me how to use their tools to my own benefit. So we will talk about a place really in the east of Indonesia. You see the blue arrow. It's very near to East Timor, this small island that I will tell you about. It's called Alor. And there is a small Papuan family there, which 20 years ago was virtually unknown. But since then, many linguists have arrived there, and that changed very rapidly. The interesting thing is it's a place where you have language contact of 2 families. So the blue arrows are the Papuans, who have somehow gotten there maybe about 5,000 years ago from New Guinea. And at the same time, a little bit later, Austronesians from the north have also arrived in that area. So typologically it's interesting, because these 2 language families are completely kind of almost the opposite of each other, and here they are meeting. Now the island, this is about 100 kilometers in length, right? So let's say this is the Moravia province, and there would be about 30 languages there, which have the time depth of about 5,000 years, as I said. So they are pretty different, some of them. And what I have been doing, and I'm not going to talk about it too much today, but I have basically been doing the kind of traditional field work. So recording narratives, recording conversations, recording them on video and audio, and doing plenty of elicitation where I need to clarify what the things are that I'm finding. They are divided in 2 corpora. There is the elicited corpus. This is my elicitations, where I find grammatical information which is sometimes really, really rare. You don't find that in the natural occurring data. But there are also sentences where, you know, things that you can never say, there are errors in there. So it's slightly different data, so I keep it separate. At the moment, it's about 40,000 words, and it's contained in a toolbox database. And then I have, and it's in pretty good shape. It's quite orderly, and the analysis is up to date. And then I have the large corpus, which is about 4 times as big. Those are the narratives, conversations, songs, poems, and so on. And that's very messy, because the texts are very long, and once I have entered them, I usually don't go back to them. And so some of them have the analysis from 2005, some have the glossing from 2010, and it's really, really messy. And basically, it's different ages. It's like with wine. There are different vintages there, and it's becoming increasingly obsolete and hard to use. So I am really systematically looking for a solution, how to with computational methods, make the bigger part equally useful. And that's being very challenging. So I could talk about that a little bit more in the question time, for example. And then I have the rapid words corpus. I don't know whether you have heard about rapid words. I can talk about it later. It's a method how to collect a lot of lexicon very quickly. You basically crowdsource the data collection. In our case, we had maybe 30 people come together, and they were sitting for 1 week, everyone together every day, the whole day, and they were writing words that they could remember according to some kind of complicated questionnaire. We ended up having a dictionary of about 17,000 words after that week, which is amazing, because when you're doing it yourself, you know, after 3-4 years, you are maybe at 2,000 and you feel very good about yourself. Yet when you give it out of your hands, then people really can speed it up. Well, and then there are the other corpora, which I mentioned. I am tracking all kind of information about people because they are multilingual, they are a different age, they are different dialects, different villages. So I'm kind of trying to keep track of it in different formats. I'm also keeping a log of what kind of texts I have, what is in them, who told me, how long they are. I have another log where I keep files. Here's, you see number 6 is a file that's a failure. Ansel, who was supposed to transcribe it, did transcribe it, but it died on the English translation. So this file doesn't have an English translation and is merged into the corpus without it. So there is all this kind of bookkeeping and logistics that goes with building the large corpus, which one could talk about. And then you have this kind of statistic description of people, but they usually like to have a nicer profile of themselves, right? So when you actually get to talk to them and you show them the data, then you say, what should I write about you in the corpus? You know, you told me this nice story. Maybe later people want to know something about you. So then we are changing these little portraits. People would actually like to have a picture taken in front of their house, maybe with their grandchildren and so on, and you know, all these wishes. So if you have more people working with you, you can kind of do it. This I will skip. There are dialects, of course, but there is one very good thing which I think I have been lucky to stumble on. When I started my fieldwork, I couldn't really get the old people talk to me. They were thinking like, why am I there? What am I doing? And so I kind of gave up on fieldwork at some point because I was there for 7 months, my first field trip. And I thought, well, okay, I'm not gonna make much of it here. At least I will, you know, learn make some friends. So I was teaching English to high school students, and in return, they were teaching me their language. And from this, I kind of, without intention of doing so, I have developed, or we have become like a team. So these young people here who are mentioned are all kids whom I have taught English once or helped them with their homework. And then they became involved in projects, and they have become like a field station in a way. And the first one listed, Benny, he even came to Singapore, did his MA in linguistics, rewrote my phonology chapter of this language as his MA thesis, has done a better job, you know. And because they joined, then all the older people saw, okay, this is sensible, our young men are involved in this, we're gonna support it. So we now have a lot of goodwill from the community, because these guys get paid from the projects when we get them. They pay their tuition fees in the university. They end up doing a BA degree, which is unheard of for a tribal person in Indonesia. And so everyone thinks this makes a lot of sense, and people want to join or want to work. Now, here you have some pictures, right? So when we are doing the dictionary workshop, it's really like a large event. There are many people from the village. There are some women, you don't see too many of them though, because of the kind of tribal politics, but mostly men, and also women sometimes marry outside of the area, and the wives of these guys are from elsewhere. So the native speakers really in the village, the majority of them are men. So here we are sitting in a school building, and we are writing those words. We are also recording them with example sentences, storing it all somewhere. This is how beautifully people write it down for you. And now we are digitizing it, and that takes years because someone has to type all this over, and it's very, very many sheets. So that's what we are doing. Eventually, it's going to be a nice electronic dictionary linked to WordNet. I don't know whether you have heard of that system. Now, and then we have all kind of done all kind of pet projects which have kind of mushroomed up on the fact that there is a team of young men or young people who are willing to work, who are willing to support a group of field workers. So here we have done a so I'm trying to, when I record stories, and so I'm trying to always get some funding and then print it, give it back to the, bring it to the village, show it. People normally tell you everything that's wrong with it, right? Find all the typos and tell you that you interviewed the wrong person and so on. But one can turn it in one's advantage and say, you know, next time I'm here, next year we will record with you a whole full day. So prepare your stories. So we have been kind of able to do that. And we have recorded this myth, or I have recorded a myth in about 2003. And when we printed it for the first time, then a whole bunch of people came and they said, you got the wrong version. There are more versions of this. And then I thought, what's wrong? What have I done? And they said, no, that's okay. Everyone have their own version. You just have to record all of them. So I have done two things. I have brought young students of film who were doing their own thesis project, a documentary film on this. And I have brought some other students to do the kind of toponymy that's involved in the myth, because the myth has this kind of structure that you see here. Basically, people run from one place to another and different things happen there. It's very long and the different versions have slightly different sequence. So what we were doing, because there is no good map of the area, so we are also kind of walking around, mapping it, drawing large maps, walking around with GPS, and trying to sort out where did those things really happen, and you know, record it in the process. There is some kind of movie here. I will have a link to it somewhere there. And we basically discovered that how the myth is collected to land ownership, genealogy of people, different fragments of it, kind of give away people's family roots and their claim, justify their claims on land. And yeah, I think we have done this in a lot of detail, in a very interesting way for us, very unexpected, but in a way that the Abui people were happy with. They thought, okay, this is how it really is. You have recorded it properly. And then we did this is an official invitation to the movie premiere when we showed it in the village. So we invite everyone, we make cakes, and everyone shows up to watch it. This guy up here on the left, Andreas, he's the one who told me the first piece of that myth. Well, and then we were doing some spin-off paper on this, on toponyms, on landscape, on the ownership, and so on. Eventually figured out where it all happened as well, and learned something about oral tradition, that the fabric of some kind of oral tradition breaks up or tears apart, but there are threads that are kept or that continue, and they usually are of some significance to that particular group, and we wrote a paper about it. And then we were trying to work with people in education and make some of these materials into stuff that people could use. So we made a storybook for kids to read from. We made some kind of game. We make a YouTube channel where we put all the videos, and people gradually post it on Facebook themselves because they know about it. And then we are not organized enough to harvest their comments. What are they saying about it? But they obviously use it, and use it with some kind of pride. Look, this is who we are, and look at us. So a lot of work went into it. But what's really interesting is that you can basically then join different people with different agendas, different interests in a very interesting way for the local community, because after all, the people who are talking to us most of the time, in my case, I'm really interested in verbs, right, or pronouns, and they're really not interested in that at all. On the other hand, I do have the skill to record the story properly and transcribe it more or less that you can read it. So if I bring along other people and do little bits of what they actually want, it's like you shout in the mountains and an avalanche comes down on you, right? It's that kind of feeling. So you kind of hope that you print that story and you are done with it, but it kind of snowballs and gets really big eventually, and then bits start splitting off and other people can take it and work with it on their own. So that's kind of in a very short, in a nutshell, what are the different topics I could talk about in more detail, maybe also in the future. Okay.